2 Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're on site, on location at the ACC Kickoff down in Charlotte, and we're heading into the 2025-26 college football season. And as always, I have here with me, but not picture in picture, you can actually do this and say hi to Gary Stokan, President and CEO of Peach Bowl, Inc., that oversees the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl as well as the Aflac Kickoff Game. And we have games for the Aflac Kickoff side of things this season with 2 games going on, Syracuse, Tennessee, and Virginia Tech in South Carolina. So first and foremost, Gary, thanks for being here.
Dan, great to see you again.
Great to see you as
I know
well.
when we sit down and do this interview, it's college football season.
Yeah, and it's crazy how fast this comes around. We were just talking about the end of this past season and it being in Atlanta. I mean, when we reflect back on the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl that we had in this new iteration of the college football playoff, the first time we've ever had 12 teams, just to reflect on that game that you had, which was an instant classic. I remember looking at Matt, I turned around and looked at Matt Garvey, and we both simultaneously mouthed, wow, when Arizona State came all the way back against Texas. So just what you can say to the past Peach Bowl and what it meant to be a part of the playoff.
Yeah, it was a very successful first iteration of the playoff. Obviously, there's things that you can always improve after you do something for the first time. We've had numerous meetings with CFP, with Texas and Arizona State in our case, talking about how we can always be in continual improvement. So I think one of the big moves is the commissioners have decided to go on seeding, based on the CFP selection committee, 1 through 12. This is the last year of the 12-year first CFP contract. So they'll decide, what they want to do for 26 through 31 by December 1st. Hopefully we've done enough to remain a part of playing the quarters and the semis in Atlanta. And but I think in whole, everybody was pleased with the first year of a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and like you said, being a part of the Peach Bowl, you were in the rotation for the 4-team college football playoff, in as a semi and then out as the quote-unquote New Year's Six in this 12-team and whatever it becomes as we move forward, to be a part of every road to a national championship. Every year, a quarterfinal or semifinal game coming through Atlanta at some point. Just what that means to the Peach Bowl, its history, and the fact that in this model, you are always a part of finding out who the national champion is going to be.
Well, it's been a really interesting ride since 1998 when I first started in this job. We were looked at as a third-tier bowl game by our own city and our own newspaper, and now to have risen to the point where we now host quarters and semis, and we're the first city to double host, or in the case of national championship, hosted twice in the CFP era. Says a lot about how far Atlanta's come from a bowl perspective. So great job by our volunteers who provide great Southern hospitality, our board with great leadership, our staff with flawless execution, and the whole of city of Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Give them a lot of credit for what they've done as well. So we're very blessed to have all the ingredients to put together the recipe of having, been called the capital of college football.
And the capital of college football, it's where it ended and it's where it will begin. Last season ending the national championship in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium shortly after the Peach Bowl. And then seeing this year the Aflac Kickoff Game kicking off, like I said, Syracuse, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, and South Carolina. To have that bookend, which is something you and I have spoken about before off the air, of ending in Atlanta and then beginning in Atlanta, just what that does for what you said, is the beacon, the home, the place of college football.
Well, and that's been our strategy all along, is by moving the College Football Hall of Fame to Atlanta, where there's only one in the country. It's in Atlanta. We funded it. We helped develop it, design it. It was very important to where we wanted to go. Basically taking the kickoff game format and now running it for 18 straight years and changing basically the face of college football on the front side of the season, where prior to us doing the kickoff games, there were a lot of nondescript openers and first couple of weeks of non-conference games. And now you look at this year with Clemson, LSU, Ohio State, Texas, Miami, Notre Dame, our 2 Aflac Kickoff games. The face of college football has changed on the front side of the season. So, being a part of the changing that and having that and still having 2 games, 3 out of the last 5 years, we've been able to do it twice over the first weekend has been a phenomenal accomplishment by Peach Bowl Inc.
Do you know that your 2 Aflac Kickoff games this season both have a connection to Syracuse? You have Syracuse, Tennessee, and then South Carolina, their quarterback, Lenora Sellers, was originally committed to Syracuse from South Carolina, and South Carolina came in late. I did an interview with him about how committed he was staying to Syracuse, and when I got done with that interview, I said every Syracuse fan probably held their breath and lost their mind a little bit because his pauses were really long, and at certain points, and he, after that, shortly after, decided to decommit. So it was kind of coming down the pipeline. But yeah, so you will have who could have been a Syracuse quarterback and whoever Fran Brown chooses between Steve Angeli and Ricky Collins Jr. So you have a double connect to Syracuse.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. I didn't realize that.
So
and Norris will be up for the Heisman Trophy and really should be. I mean, off of the year he had last year.
And, the connection to the ACC, I mean, you and I met at ACC Kickoff back in Greensboro way back when, over a decade ago, and we sat down and, this Peach Bowl before the college football playoff, you came out here and you made it a point to connect to this conference and see value in this conference. Your kickoff game features 2 teams from this conference. So just why the ACC and why continue to be so focused and partnered with their schools?
What's interesting, we had 18 straight sellouts in the old Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl before the CFP, and the connection was the ACC versus the SEC matchup. And when we moved to the CFP, knowing we were going to get more national teams coming in, we decided to take the ACC-SEC matchup and move it forward in the kickoff game format. Now we'll take an Oregon or a Washington, which we've had in the past, top 10 teams to come in to play in our kickoff game, but for the most part, it's been ACC versus SEC. It works, with the large alumni base of ACC and SEC schools living in Metro Atlanta, with them easily, accessibly being able to come in through 3 interstates into Atlanta. You need that attendance because we don't get any of the TV revenue in our kickoff game. So to make the payouts for SEC schools, in a lot of cases they have 100,000 seats. To give up a home game, you got to have that full attendance. And we've averaged over 65,000 fans. More than 37 bowl games has been the average in our Aflac Kickoff game. So it's important, the ACC and SEC from a regional geographic basis to have them match up.
And like you said, I mean, and to that point, having ACC, SEC typically in the Peach Bowl before the college football playoff made those decisions for you, and to now carry that on in the kickoff game to keep that tradition, to keep that history, and to keep the rivalries and the excitement that can come from that. Just what that means to you that Peach Bowl Inc. gets to preserve something in college football when so many things are changing.
Yeah, we're one of the constants is having this kickoff game for 18 straight years, as I mentioned, and selling out for the most part, and then also having on the backside the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl be now such a big part of the CFP, where, just this past year hosting a quarter of the national championship and this year hosting the semifinal game. It's been very rewarding. It's been a great run, and due to a lot of people doing a lot of work in the city of Atlanta, combining to get on the same page and really uniting to make sure that college football was relevant in the city of Atlanta.
And and to what we have to look forward to and to the excitement of what's to come, you made mention of the fact that the college football playoff is getting toward the end of their current agreement, and there is talk about where to go from here. Do they expand? Do they go from 12 to 14 to 16? 16 seems to be the conversation right now. What are your thoughts as one of the bowls that is in the path to a national championship? If they were to say, hey, we're going to add another bowl, we're going to add 2 other bowls to this whole plan, just what your thoughts are on that?
You know, it'll be interesting to see. They have to make a decision by December 1st for ESPN's purposes, and then once they do that, then they'll negotiate with the title sponsors like Chick-fil-A in our case to get their revenue back from what they paid the CFP for the rights to broadcast the games. And then in parallel to that, the CFP will come and negotiate the 6-year contracts with the bowl game. So we don't have a lot to say in whether they stay at 12, go to 14, go to 16, but we hope we've done enough good work that we can remain in our position to host quarters and semis.
Well, and I wouldn't see how that wouldn't be the case with putting on such amazing games in a wonderful venue at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in a city that has so many direct flights, including one from my hometown of Syracuse, New York. Another element that I think people don't talk about enough, but you've always brought up on the show, and I respect it, is the fact that, being the most charitable bowl and all of the money that you give, the people that you give it to, the different organizations, the why and who you're helping and why you're so dedicated to doing something like that. I'd love to go into that a little bit deeper with you to say, I hope that, we stay in this world where the bowl, our bowl game would be a part of the college football playoff, and I don't see why not for a lot of reasons, and one of those things being the fact that you dedicate yourself so much to helping people and going well outside of football.
Well, it's very important to us. It's part of our mission. We were created back in 1968 as the first bowl for charity, to give back to charity. We're the 9th oldest bowl game in the country, and we've kept that part of our mission to become the most charitable bowl organization in the country. We've donated $65.8 million to charities in our existence, and through the pillars of childhood education, through child care, through Lions Lighthouse, and through catastrophes. So we have $9 million in endowed scholarships at 35 universities throughout the country of teams that have played in our kickoff game, or our bowl, or our golf tournament, earmarked for Title I kids in our John Lewis Legacy of Courage Scholarship. So some of these kids are the first kids in their families that are matriculating to college football, or to college, to get their education. So we're changing communities that way. Secondly, our donation of $23 million now to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, to the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center, through our kickoff games, through our bowl game, and our golf tournament, has now created 14 trials in 5 different hospitals in 4 different states. And everything from neuroblastoma to leukemia, we're trying to find cures and trials that will help kids maybe live another month or another year, maybe another life at a time. So that's awfully important to us in our mission. And it's important to give back. We spent $13 million in moving the College Football Hall of Fame from South Bend to Atlanta, and building the College Football Hall of Fame, where there's only one in the country, and it's in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we've given back to college football in a lot of ways, but we've given back in our communities. Our golf tournament, we give $300,000 away to the coaches that play in our golf tournament, to their charities and foundations. So we're involved not only in Atlanta and Georgia, but in communities throughout the country that have participated in some form or fashion in our golf tournament, our kickoff game, or our bowl game.
And for you, the personal rewarding part of that, you and I have talked about faith, we've talked about God, we've talked about the more important things. Our conversations from the moment that we met were about humanity and what it means to be a good human and to help other people. So how does working with Peach Bowl Inc. and be the president and CEO of this organization that gives so much, how is it personally paralleling your desires in life and your wants in life?
Yeah, I think I was, out of my childhood, I was always taught by my mom and dad, it's always better to give than receive. And I've brought that to the business world, whereas I'd love to be as successful as an Arthur Blank, to be able to give as much money as he's donated back, which is incredible on his part. But if I can use, in my philosophy of life is, God's gift to you is life, and your present to Him is maximizing the God-given talents He's blessed you with. So if I can use my relationships, my business acumen to create events or create donations out of those events to give back, that's fulfilling for me, but also part of what my gift back is to God. That hopefully, humbly, I've used His gifts and used the opportunities, the relationships that He's blessed me with in life to be able to give back, to make things better, and use college football for the greater good.
How has God challenged you and brought out the best in you via adversity?
Oh, man. I've been in jobs that, whether it's having Michael Jordan ready to sign with Adidas and not getting that done from a business side because some higher-ups didn't give me the money to sign him, to signing a college scholarship or committing to a college and then being over-recruited because they found somebody better late and losing that opportunity. There have been a lot of personal challenge playing athletics and sports, as well as coaching and as well as in my business life, of losing jobs or losing opportunities that have created a lot of character by fighting through a lot of tough times that maybe you thought you should have received this or you should have had that opportunity, or why did God do that? And I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of is through 47 years of business that I've had the opportunity to have some huge successes and huge accomplishments, but also to feel the sting of a loss, and whether it's been a job or an opportunity or whatever it might be, and that builds character. I'm afraid that's what we're losing a little bit with college athletics, with so many transfers and people not getting what they want to start maybe, and running from competition. I have a acumen that I use in life, a couple of them. One is, I always try and maintain MAPS, balance in life, and MAPS is, mental, attitude, physical, and spiritual. MAPS, roadway to get to where I want to get to keep a balance in life, or ROCKS, which is relationships, opportunities, competitiveness, and strength, and strategic. I look at every opportunity and, okay, what's the relationship with this? What's the opportunity? Is it strategic? And, are we being competitive? And then AIM, asset integrated management. Am I taking assets that we have and integrating them into a management plan that's going to lead to the goals that we've established? So I'm an old coach, so I like acronyms, and that's how I've developed different ways of working in my life.
No, and I definitely respect it and appreciate it. I want to go back to something that you just threw in there real soft, and it was like an anvil when you said it was working at Adidas and them not giving me enough money to sign Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Can you bring me into this?
Yeah, I was, when I got out of coaching, I had the opportunity to work for Adidas and, signed Mike Krzyzewski to an Adidas contract. So I had the greatest college coach that had ever coached. I signed Herschel Walker to an Adidas contract, so I had the best college football player ever. And, I had played basketball at NC State, and so I was living in Raleigh, and Michael Jordan liked Adidas, and he and Buzz Peterson were roommates, and I took care of him with Adidas, and he couldn't wear them in a game because Dean Smith was under a Converse contract, and rightfully so. And but when time came for him to graduate and go to the Olympics, I gave Michael the first $100 pair of basketball shoes in America. They were called the Forum. They had leather high tops with a Velcro strap, and gave them to Michael and said, wear these up in the Olympic trials in Bloomington, because they were playing for Bobby Knight, who was going to be the coach.
Yeah.
So I have pictures of Michael wearing Adidas that actually exist, And when it came time for Michael to sign his shoe contract, he, in the book called Swoosh, his mother talked him into going to Nike. He didn't want to go to Nike, but David Falk, his agent, talked Mrs. Jordan into telling him to go to visit the people at Nike. And they went out there, and as they came out of the meeting, Michael's dad said, "We got to sign with Nike." And David Falk agreed and said, "Yeah, this is an unbelievable deal." And this is all in the book called Swoosh. And it's quoted, Michael's quoted in that book saying, "No, I want to sign with Adidas." So Michael was 23, I guess. I was about 28 or 29. He always called me Mr. Stokan. I got letters from him, "Mr. Stokan, thanks for the shoes, blah, blah, blah." And he called me and said, "Mr. Stokan, can you meet?" And so we met on Franklin Street in Chapel Hill across from Four Corners restaurant there. And he looked at me and he says, "Mr. Stokan, I love you. You've been great to me and my family," because I took care of him with Adidas products. He said, "I love Adidas products. If you can just get close on the shoe deal, the apparel deal, the annuity, you don't have to beat Nike. If you just get close, I'll sign with Adidas because you've been really great to me." So I wrote up a 3-page marketing campaign and sent it to Herzogenaurach, West Germany, because the wall was still up at the time. And that's where Adidas is headquartered. And the Europeans came back to me and said they didn't have that kind of money to put in the U.S. market. Now, in the book Shoe Dogs, which is Phil Knight's book, Phil Knight talks about how Nike was in the red at the time. In 83, 84, they were close to bankruptcy because he couldn't find a bank to fund them. And so the Europeans don't give me the money. It was $2.5 million to sign Michael. Michael signs with Nike. He sells $126 million of Air Jordan products his rookie year with the Bulls. Puts Nike in the black from being in bankruptcy. Because if we sign Michael, there may not be a Nike. Nike could have gone out of business. And so he sold $126 million, puts Nike in the black, and now his own brand is worth $7 billion. That next year, I take my family to vacation to the Bahamas, and we're in the Atlantis walking through the casino and going to the restaurant through the casino. You got to walk through, and to the left there's a jewelry shop, a cigar shop, and a clothing shop.
Yeah.
And my daughters were 10 and 7 at the time, and my wife and I were walking through, and my daughter says, "There's Michael Jordan over there." He was coming out of the cigar shop, and he had Ahmad Rashad, Charles Barkley, and Charles Oakley with him, because Michael used to run his golf tournament down in the Bahamas. So I said, "Yeah, that's Michael. Come on, we'll walk over." We walked over, and he sees me, and he says, "Gee, come here," and he puts me in a headlock. And he looks at my daughter, and he says, "Your dad is the hardest working white man in sports." My daughter never forgot that. And then he went on to tell Barkley and Rashad and Oakley, "Yeah, Gary didn't think I could play, and that's why Adidas didn't sign me." So he stuck a dagger right in my heart, which Michael loves to do. So yeah, that was the biggest business disappointment I've had in my career. But I learned from it that if you believe in something and you've put in the work, that you have to go to the nth degree and not let people, turn you down. I was 28, 29. I was young, and I didn't forcefully, push the envelope, so to speak.
Okay.
And I should have. And Adidas missed out on a huge opportunity. Now, Nike did not own its factories, and so its margins were a lot bigger than Adidas, because Adidas owned its factories, so our costs were much more higher in a shoe, but our shoes were much better than Nike. And Nike would run in Vietnam or Cambodia or wherever on one line, and Reebok would run on another line, and Pony would run on another line, but Adidas owned its factories and made its shoes. And so, our margins weren't as big, but he sold $126 million of Nike. If he'd have sold $50 million of Adidas, and the opportunistic cost to put Nike out of business would have changed the whole athletic footwear industry. So having that opportunity, and I still look back on it, and just it's a challenge every day to say, why didn't I just push it harder? Because I did all the work and had the opportunity and didn't convert on the opportunity.
But in a way, having known you for as many years as I have, and knowing about your story and just listening to you talk about a lot of different things, I would say that when you say, God, why didn't this work out and why didn't that work out, I would say that not working out pushed you to be the Gary Stokan that I know, and pushed you to get the College Football Hall of Fame built down in Atlanta, and pushed you to be the president and CEO of Peach Bowl Inc., and pushed you to make sure that this bowl game was a part of the college football playoff, and pushed you to have this kickoff game and have the success, and giving you all of these relationships. I would say that as much as, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan, you are such a well-respected person, and you work so hard. You're literally everywhere. I don't know how you do it sometimes, just physically going from one place to the other. So I would say that, that didn't work out, but arguably, and you could tell me I'm crazy, but arguably that not working out, I feel like has pushed you to make sure everything else has done that since then. Everything has worked out, and Peach Bowl Inc. isn't what it is without you. The Aflac Kickoff Game isn't what it is. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl isn't what it is, and it might not be in the college football playoff because of not only yourself, but the staff you've surrounded yourself with, the decisions that you've made. So I'm not saying it because I've known you for a long time. I'm saying
Well, you're very kind in saying that, and I do believe that it did teach me a lesson that you've got to push the envelope if you believe in something.
Yeah.
And I've done that since, and when we didn't get into the BCS back in 2006, when the BCS was bringing on another bowl game to add a championship, and they went to a double host model where the Rose, the Sugar, the Fiesta, and the Orange did their game, and then on a rotational basis they held the national championship game. And next year the NCAA added a 12th game to the schedule, and I'm a competitive son of gun, and I learned from that. I went to my board and I said, hey, if they're not going to let us into BCS on the backside of the season, we're going to start the BCS on the front side of the season. And so I went to Terry Don Phillips, a friend from Clemson who was the AD, and they were going to be top 10 with Spiller and that team. And I went to Nick Saban, who was a friend from LSU, then it was in the second year at Alabama, and said, I'm starting this new game, would love to have you two play. They came in, we sold out with over 70,000 people in the old Georgia Dome, and Alabama won 34-10. It was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Alabama's back, and Nick Saban, if he were sitting there, would tell you that was the start of the run they went on until he retired. And so I called it the Daytona 500 of college football. I did receive a cease and desist letter from Daytona 500, but that's basically what we did. I was competitive enough to say, hey, they didn't let us in the BCS on the backside, we're going to start the BCS on the front side. And that's what we did, and now you look back, 18 years later, and, we've got the LSU Clemson games and Miami Notre Dame's and Ohio State Texas is to start the season off now. So, I became very competitive out of that. And always was, but that pushed me a little bit harder.
And when you look at the competitiveness that you have and the drive that you have to put together these games and to know what was coming up this year, and you've had the Aflac Kickoff Game, and sometimes you have a doubleheader. This year we have that doubleheader, which is going to take up that weekend, that Labor Day weekend, and really give us something to be excited about over the weekend with Syracuse, Tennessee, and with Virginia Tech and South Carolina. As we look to the future, what can you say? Because I know you're planning out schedules and you're doing different things, but you talked about ACC, SEC, and the importance of keeping that model that you had with the Peach Bowl before it became a part of the college football playoff. So what are the hopes for the future, and are you wheeling and dealing when you come out to media days? Because relationships obviously are important to you.
Well, I've had one coach just here put me on the phone with their football operation director and their assistant AD to talk about scheduling in the future. And that's what you do. You work hard in meeting with ADs and coaches and finding out what opportunities they have, what openings they have, what interest they have in playing what teams. back to that, looking for opportunities and strategic and being competitive, trying to beat other people to the punch. And so that's been something that we're trying to do. It's been an interesting dichotomy going on in the scheduling in the future, because you have the mixture of the ACC, SEC talking about 9-game schedules.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ADs worried about selection, how the selection process is going to go from 26 to 31 in a 12-team or 14 or 16-team playoff. You have the ACC viewership incentive now, that if you play in big games with big viewership, you get more money. So you got all these different things going on amongst a coach wanting to play another coach, an opening of an AD, or not having an opening, let alone the financial deal. So it's all part of a Rubik's Cube that I find consuming and interesting and challenging, which I really like a challenge, because when you can pull it off, it's just really cool to see everything come to fruition when you try and plan something. So we've been very blessed to do it 18 straight years, and that's the goal, to continue it. But there are some facets out there that could play a big role in whether we can or not.
And like you said, if a conference goes from 8 conference games to 9 conference games, what would be some of the other things that could affect a kickoff game?
I think you got the, what does the playoff look like? Is it 4-4-2-2-1? Is it 5-11? That's going to have some impact on it. Obviously, the 8 and 9 games has a big role, because the inventory could shrink if they go to 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
Does the SEC and Big Ten, which was not talked about recently because they seem to be at loggerheads over the format, but the SEC Big Ten said, why don't we do a scheduling of football games? Does that come into play? So a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on right now that have to shake themselves out. But all we can do is work hard, look at the plan, talk to a lot of people, and see if we can stitch together a 26 game, a 27 game, a 28 game, before all this happens.
Well, there's a lot of things to talk about, and I always enjoy our conversations, but I do want to make sure we get to rapid fire and put each other on the hot seat and have some fun with that. Before we do that, I want to ask you about Matt Garvey. He's the guy behind the scenes. We don't see him typically on the camera here, but he is right off the camera as we're talking here right now down in Charlotte, North Carolina. What it's like to travel with him, work with him, be around, because you have been a package deal, for as long as I've known you, getting to see you both together, and he's usually the man behind the scenes.
Well, we've been very blessed to, have Matt for, over 20 years as our VP of Communications. He does a great job building relationships, and so it makes my job easier. Matt's part of a team that I've been blessed with in this job 28 years, that Matt, my VP of Communications, Derek Martin, my VP of Events, Benji Halls, my VP of Sales, and David Epps, my VP of Marketing and COO, have been with me for over 20 years. And so if you talk to most of these coaches or players, they talk about continuity of team. They talk about, connection. And, we've been very, very blessed to be a team for over 20 years. I think it's one of the reasons why we've been so successful in what we've been able to do, whether it's the kickoff games or our golf tournament or our bowl game. It's just the connectivity. We're all, I'm an old coach, so, my business acumen on my team is teamwork, empowerment, accountability, management. We all work together as a team. No job too big, too small for anybody. You recruit people with a particular expertise, so you empower them to play their role. You let them understand their role, you have them accept their role, and then you empower them to play that role. So if we're going to hand you the ball, don't fumble it. Right?
Yeah.
And so we empower you to be able to run the ball and play your expertise, because you don't want a tight end playing quarterback, you don't want a lineman playing running back, right? You don't want a safety playing, defensive line. You don't want a point guard playing center. Everybody, whether it's legal, operations, marketing, sales. Everybody has an expertise. And so we've tried to recruit people like Matt, who does a great job in particular roles, and then empower them to play roles. But the A-in team is making them accountable to the rest of the team to play their role successfully. And M is that's the way we manage the process, through teamwork, empowerment, accountability, management.
Yeah, and he's actually right off camera. We just spoke about you, Matt. So, as the man that's typically off camera, literally, he's like right over there. So, with that being said, let's play some rapid fire, put each other on the hot seat. Any topic, any question. We've known each other for a while, Mr. Stokan. What do you have for me?
Who's going to win the ACC this year?
You're going to put me right on that spot. So, I think...
You've been sitting there listening to all the coaches.
I know. I think Clemson... Miami, Florida State, and SMU are all places that I've circled. If I had to put my feet to the fire right now in this moment, I would say Clemson or SMU. But I think Florida State's going to have a pretty good year, and I think that Miami should not be overlooked. I just think that, I've known Rhett Lashley for a while. I know how hungry he is, and he's a good man, and he's a godly man. And obviously Dabo's a godly man. I sat here and asked him about God a few years ago. So I think the ACC is going to be fun, exciting, exhilarating. There's going to be some good games. And, if I had to pick right now, I'd probably say Clemson or SMU. But I think there's 4 in my head right now. And I think Louisville could do some good things too. And hopefully Syracuse can find a way to get through a really, really tough road schedule. So we'll see.
Are you running for governor of New York?
Am I right?
That was the most political answer I've heard.
I said Clemson, SMU if I had to put my feet to the fire again.
Okay, who's going to play in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl? Semifinal of the CFP.
Who's going to win in it? A semifinal of CFP. Ohio State.
Wow.
And, oh man, this is so tough. I feel like so many people are still really on Texas right now. I would say, and rightly so, I guess, but I'm going to say Ohio State and, oh man, give me Ohio State, Georgia. Give me Ohio State.
Okay, a repeat of 2023.
Yeah, give me Ohio State, Georgia.
All right.
Yeah. Well, SEC, Big Ten. All right, I'm gonna hit you with a few. If I asked Matt Garvey to describe you in 3 words, what 3 words would he say? Like if he was talking to God, and God said, "All right, Matt, you're gonna decide if Gary gets in here. You got to tell me the 3 reasons why I should let him in." What would be those 3 things? So not words, reasons, I'll say.
I'll give you 4 words.
Okay.
Pain in the ass. How's that?
Good.
Does that work, Matt?
I don't have a comment on that, sir.
Okay. You and I talk about a lot of things. We've spoken about NIL, the transfer portal, the house settlement, and we've also talked about the fact that people don't wear the shoes of the brands that they're connected to. So, of everything going on in collegiate athletics right now, what is the thing that has bothered you the most about where the model is heading?
The kids are not getting their degree. Everything I do is based on a goal and the mission is to give kids an opportunity for a free education and then getting them a degree. And unfortunately, what I'm reading is 25% of the kids that are transferring more than once are not getting their degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I think we become very motivated by money, which is never good. And that's our society. And I think kids are chasing money. The second thing I would say is that kids are not learning what being on a team means, in that they're not facing adversity and building character, because they're chasing money and they're chasing opportunity instead of learning and fighting and growing and developing character if they're not a starter.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing so many kids, well, I'm not starting as a freshman, so I'm going to transfer, and and there's a whole trickle down of that by old high school coaches or hanger-ons or people connected to that family that are using the transfer portal to get that kid to not stay and fight through it and the adversity and grow in character by telling them to leave because you can go over here, the grass is greener, and go chase this money.
Yeah.
And I think, in 4 years, 5 years, that's going to hurt because the kid's not going to have that money coming in, and he's going to have to pick up a lunch pail and go to work every day and make $50,000.
With no education.
With
no degree.
No degree.
One final question from the both of us. It's got to be non-sports related. You get to ask the first one.
Oh boy. Not sports.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most important thing in your walk with God and faith?
Making sure that I hold up my end of the bargain because he always gives me his. I would say, when I have been impatient, he has been patient. When I have been confused, he's been clear. When he has told me exactly what to do, I have said, no.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can figure it out better. Yeah. So I would say the most important and most challenging thing is that in my walk with God, I have to listen more, know why he brought me through what he brought me through. Knowledge and wisdom are not meant to be old trinkets that you put in the closet, but they're supposed to be used. And so I would say learn from my experiences, understand that he knows better. And I say 2 prayers all the time, one of them being, God, please guide me toward you and guard me from everything that is not you. And the second thing is your will over my want. So even if I want it, if it's not the right thing for me, don't let me have it.
That's powerful.
I
like that.
Thank you. My final question for you is a 2-parter. What is your greatest achievement with God? Like you're standing on the mountain with God. What is that moment in your life? And secondly, how would you describe our friendship to someone who didn't know either one of us?
Well, I'll do the second one first. The friendship is based on a relationship that was created out of mutual respect and faithfulness. The first part of it would be that I have, in my personal philosophy of God's gift to you is life, and you're present to him as maximizing your God-given talents that he's blessed you with, that I have, whether successfully or not is up to him, not me, for the most part, walked as a positive influence as a husband, as a father, as a business leader, and a friend. I tried to do so through, his blessings and again, maximizing his talents that he's blessed me with.
Well, as I've told you before, and I love that answer, you gave me an opportunity and opened a door when I was at a place in my life where I was doing everything I possibly can, and I felt like people were not giving an opportunity, and you did. And, you're one of those people that when I kept having doors slammed in my face, I said, but Gary's door's open, but the Peach Bowl's door's open, but this is a relationship. So instead of looking at all the closed ones, foster this one, take care of this one. And so I can literally go back to that chair I was sitting in next to you in Greensboro and say, this guy opened a door, he gave you a chance, he gave you an opportunity, and he's one of the only people that you feel like is seeing you for who you are at that time. And I love you for that. I love you for letting somebody who was trying to build their own brand and do their own thing and do it for the right reasons and create and was giving everything to this day the same. you know, to see that human being and to trust that I was who I said I was. And, you know, I will never forget that. It's people like you that I could call my mom and my dad up and say, you know, I got good news today. I got an open door today. I'm going to walk through it, and I'm going to use this to open another door and do something else, and then I'm going to open a door for somebody. So you're one of the people that believed in me a long time ago, and I will never, ever forget that.
Well, I appreciate that, but you deserve all the credit. You've impressed me with just as I stood and listened to every coach today, there wasn't more astute, relevant questions asked by anybody in this auditorium here or this room to the coaches than came from Dan Tortora. And I've admired seeing you grow over the years in your profession, and I know you're very successful back in New York, and it's a shame we don't get a chance to hear you and listen to you as much down in the South, but I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I think you should appreciate what you've accomplished, and I hope you're on to bigger and better things as you grow in your walk with God and walk in your career as well.
Well, I thank you for that, and I pray the same for you. And because we are on the internet with audio and video, they can get us down there in the South, and we're doing a lot down
That's
there.
right.
Florida is a second home of mine, and so not too far away, and did a lot of work in Jacksonville, which is obviously not that far from Savannah and Atlanta and whatnot. So, you know, it's always a pleasure and it's always an honor. And for all the kind words you say, I would say to God, take whatever Gary said, times it by 100. That's what I see you as a human being. And also Matt Garvey, even though he doesn't, he stays in the background. I think Matt, Matt, I did say this. There's things in college sports and profession, everything, that I will not forget. Over 20 years of broadcasting, and I remember key moments. And one of the moments was Arizona State, Texas, in the Peach Bowl this past year, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, when I turned and you turned at the same time, and we both looked dead eyes and we went, wow. And I will never forget that. And I was like, you know what I thought in that moment? That's a guy who really appreciates and still loves the game, loves the sport. He's not just sitting here going, it's a job. Like, granted, you're busy, you got a lot of stuff going on, but he was enjoying the moment like a fan, and those are the people that I love working with.
Well, like I always tell our guys, enjoy the journey, because you don't know whether God gives you another second, minute, hour of life on this earth. So
True.
Enjoy what you do, and, you know, Matt's perfect example of that. He enjoys what he does, and it shows because he builds relationships and is very successful because of, you know, the way he goes about his business. So thanks for having us, Dan. Always great to be with you.
Thank you.
All right.
Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Aflac Kickoff Game. At the beginning of the season, you got somewhere to be. At the end of the season, you got somewhere to be. And the semifinal will help us decide who is going to be playing in half of that national championship this season. For Gary Stokan and myself, Dan Tortora, from the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios, have a great day. And as always, God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk to you soon.